authorities say they grew increasingly worried that Peter Stinson, who was a trained marksman, was planning to kill President Donald Trump. They identified anywhere from 20 to 25 public social media posts indicating his desire to shoot, to kill, to poison the commander-in-chief. Investigators growing increasingly worried that they saw more specific and more violent threats issued in recent months. Now, here's one post dating back to April 2020. Stinson allegedly posted this: "I would do it. I would take the fall to save America. Too bad I don't have the operational skills to pull it off. I am willing to serve in a support capacity for someone else with the skills to take care of things." The defense in this case is laying out its own arguments here that perhaps Stinson may have harbored certain views, but did not have any specific plans to carry them out. But FBI Director Kash Patel taking Stinson's arrest very seriously, saying, quote, "This is a guy who threatened President Trump's life using the 8647 language, the exact kind of copycat law enforcement is now frequently dealing with after former Director Comey's destructive Instagram debacle." We should know Comey said he did not intend violence and has since deleted that post. Just a week ago, federal authorities point to this: Stinson allegedly posting to Blue Sky saying 8647. 1 minute later, also posting this: "When he dies, the party is going to be huge." Now, federal authorities are also doing a deeper dive on the social media, pointing out that they have since discovered that he was active on Signal, on end-to-end encrypted chats, in self-destruct mode, that he was communicating with others online. And they're also looking into an expressed desire that he had to travel to Sweden and Uruguay.
Here comes the story of the hurricane. The man the authorities came to blame for something that he never done. Put him in a prison cell, but one time he could have been the champion of the world.
Enough Breaking Bad memes for the weeks. We've had enough creepy Breaking Bad memes. I guess, should we do a whole series? I like Breaking Bad. What do you guys think? Breaking Bad is the #1 listed TV series in history, according to IMDb. It's got a strange little tie-in to our news cycle. We do have breaking news, actually, out of Minnesota, the creepy No Kings killer. Very strange stuff. The home of the murdered politician was broken into, and then nothing was taken. Is there some type of like crazy cleanup operation going on there? And you just like it's like if you'd break into a house, you'd assume you'd take something, right? I don't know. It's insane, ladies and gentlemen. Also, it sucks to be right sometimes. It really does. We said in Minnesota something very dark and very sinister was going on under the surface. We were right about that. We also said that the reason why James Comey, talking about the assassination, ordering the assassination of President Trump, is so dangerous is because of splinter cells that may have connection to Comey inside of our federal government, and we have been proven right today. Coast Guard Sharpshooter, who made threats to kill Trump, has been let out of jail. Strange that, considering the fact that it's illegal, and we're going to talk about that. We have freedom of speech, but we don't have freedom of threatening the president's life. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that any day, but today, June 19th, 2025, you definitely are not allowed to do that. Trump says White House meeting with Iran is possible. Okay. You see the Ayatollah like going into the like Oval Office? Can you just see the Ayatollah meeting with Trump? Are these your nuclear plants? You said you had no nuclear plants, but here's your nuclear plant. Can you see it? What do you say about that? Hey, can you turn the lights down? I want to show you something. It's going to see it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be. You don't have the cards. You thought Zelensky was bad. You thought South Africa was bad. Wait till the Ayatollah is sitting there in the Oval Office. I want to show you something. Turn the lights down. It's Home Alone 2. I saved the boy. I saved Christmas. Do you have Christmas in Iran? You probably don't. Do you? I don't know. But you do have nukes. Here's a photo. It's going to be amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. All right, we are full of vim and vigor this morning and a lot to talk about because we have to go quickly because we have General Flynn on the program. So many things to talk about General Flynn with, it's a kind of an interesting news cycle when you talk about military assassinations and so on. General Flynn himself being a victim of a deep state, assassination. It's going to be a wild show. Okay, so how do we handle these kind of news cycles? Well, we do naturally have high blood pressure. That's not really a great thing. That's actually like the number one killer in America is heart disease. So we need to take care of that. I'm on the wrong side of 30, if you know what I mean. So we got to be serious about these things. 120 Life is how I handle my high blood pressure. 120 Life is a spectacular drink. It's all natural, made from just 5 natural organic ingredients that are proven to lower blood pressure the right way, not by pumping me full of big pharma crap and chemicals. It can be beneficial for diabetes as well. It's endorsed by 750 different doctors. 120 Life is trusted by healthcare professionals with hundreds and hundreds of healthcare professionals recommending it to help manage your blood pressure. 120 Life can provide visible, measurable changes in your blood pressure. Use a simple monitor at home. My kids like it. My kids like drinking. My kids see me drinking it, and they come running. They come sprinting over to try and have a snack of it. But it's all mine, ladies and gentlemen. 120 Life has a risk-free 2-week trial pack option for you, and they offer money back if your blood pressure doesn't improve or if you're not satisfied. So for a limited time, try 120 Life, save 20%. Let's go use the code Benny at checkout at 120 Life. That's 120life.com. Again, risk-free trial with a full refund if you don't see lower numbers. Use the code Benny for 20% off. BENNY. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We do have high blood pressure today. I got to tell you, okay, coming in hot here. This article from Miranda Devine this morning. It's crazy. Let's start with this. There was a very famous clip, probably the most famous clip from Kash Patel since he's been director of the FBI. No doubt. Where Kash Patel says, hey, listen, we found a bunch of hidden documents at the FBI. Like, you're not going to believe this, but there's like a ton, there were rooms, locked rooms, that were hidden deep in the bowels of the building, where documents were stashed that they never wanted us to find. Of course, destroying these documents be a crime. Destroying these kind of federal documents is a crime. That doesn't mean I'm not an idiot. It doesn't mean they don't do it. But you're taking some risk, right? And there's also obviously redundancies. So if you have one document, there's a chance that there's evidence of it everywhere. So you destroy one, then you prove your crime. So it's a dodgy business, right, to destroy this kind of stuff. Maybe it's better in some circumstances to just hide information. And now that information is coming to light. Now we've covered, obviously, the Chinese operation to mass rig voting fraud in our election in 2020 with fake IDs. Donald Trump talked about that yesterday. But here's a new one. The FBI emails reveal the plot for Biden's Department of Justice to pile on charges to Donald Trump, proving much of the reporting right that we've been talking about for the last 4 years. First off, here's Kash Patel saying, listen, they hid this stuff from us. These people are evil. And we're going to make a nice little through line to James Comey. We're going to talk about exactly what kind of rot and destruction he brought upon our federal law enforcement agencies. Here's Kash Patel.
Me, as the director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation while I give over information?
So Kash Patel has begun giving of information. It's a massive bombshell this week that the Chinese were trying to rig the election, and here we are again today. And we've been telling you, because we do have personal connections to Bongino and Kash. We've been telling you, like, wait and see. Judge them by their actions, not by their words. I know people get very upset about their words, but there's only so much they can say. And again, if you say a classified thing, let's say you say something classified on air, you go straight to jail. You're not allowed to do that. So you begin a classified briefing and you go on Fox News and you talk about it, boom, you're done. And you're cooked, you're toast. Doesn't matter if you're a member of Congress, staff, FBI director, you're done. I mean, they'll come after you. There's a major infrastructure there. A ton of different independent investigation teams that can crack down and destroy your life if you tell people classified information. And so they're in, when you see these interviews with Cash and Dan, you have to understand they're very handcuffed, so to speak, right? They can't tell you everything. The best way to do it actually is declass like this. FBI emails reveal to the Post that Biden DOJ obsession with piling on charges for Trump. Let's read. Internal FBI emails reveal that rogue agents and prosecutors in the Biden DOJ were looking for ways to pile on new charges against Donald Trump over January 6th Capitol riot and other federal cases. This is a massive new bombshell from the Senate Judiciary. The 2023 emails obtained by Senate Judiciary Committee Chuck Grassley, it's amazing how this is going to be the vector here, right? It's going to be Chuck Grassley asking for the declass, the FBI giving the declass, revealed exclusively to the Post, are examples of nitpicking malice of anti-Trump lawfare that tainted Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation during Joe Biden presidency. Let's read some of these emails. Can we do some work to nail down Trump's role in this? Writes Prosecutor J.P. Cooley to the DOJ colleagues on March 8th, 2023, in an email with the subject line, J6 prisoner acquire DJT, and an attached Forbes.com article titled, Trump collaborates on song with January 6th defendants. This is incredible. You know, we heard Donald Trump play this song. You can grab that clip, please. We heard Trump play that song. It went thermonuclear viral. We were at Mar-a-Lago right after Trump won. We were at Mar-a-Lago it was a week within President Trump's victory. And we were sitting there. I was with ALX. And we were sitting there. We're having dinner with Roger Stone, of all people. And President Trump walks in. Everyone claps. He whips out his iPad. And he says, I want you to hear something. And this is President Trump as president-elect after this massive landslide. And he plays the J6 choir. We actually have video of it. It's incredible. The entire place, it's haunting. The entire place stands at attention and listens. Do you have that, Klein? Okay. Do you want to I'll just show you exactly what this was. You don't have to play the full clip, but this is Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump from his iPad playing this. Him reciting the Pledge of Allegiance with the J6 choir singing behind him. Here we go.
I got better too.
So what is this telling us?
And to the republic for which it stands.
So you can go download the song. Obviously, it supports J6ers. What was this telling us? What was Trump trying to say here? And of course, we posted this and it went thermonuclear viral. Millions and millions of people saw it. Because what we said was, if Donald Trump's going to play this, he's not going to forget J6ers. This is a direct message to the J6ers that were still incarcerated that Donald Trump is going to liberate you. And hot damn, were we right. Boy, oh boy. Within moments of being sworn into office, it's Donald Trump, man, getting those pardons out for J6ers, virtually every single one of them. So this is the DOJ wanting to prosecute Trump for reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you understand the level, the levels of true and total insurrection from within our government that this is? These people are demons. These are emails. We're reading you emails where we're saying we need to prosecute him for making a song with incarcerated J6ers. According to the Forbes article, Trump recorded the Pledge of Allegiance at Mar-a-Lago, and Kash Patel, now FBI director, and Ed Henry, former Fox News host, were involved. Cooley wrote in an email chain. Look at that. So we're reading now the FBI emails from the Biden DOJ. The profits are routed through an LLC run by Henry, and the proceeds are intended for the families of incarcerated J6 defendants. But there's apparently a vetting process that excludes families of defendants who assaulted police officers. I asked Ahmed, who was fired this month, to preserve this last night. I'll talk to Maria and Aaron, Julia, about doing some follow-up here to nail down Trump's role. Cooley also instructed his colleagues to start looking at some and process some of Ed Henry's LLCs, presumably a legal process such as a subpoena, search warrant, court-authorized actions to gather evidence. So you're going after Ed. You remember Ed Henry? Ed Henry was on Fox News. I think he's now on Real America's Voice. Is that correct? He was on Newsmax, Real America's Voice. Got nothing. Ed Henry, got nothing. Seems like a good, decent dude. Met him a couple times, right? Whatever. It's Ed Henry, right? It's like a TV host guy. They're trying to go after Ed Henry for making the J6 Choir song. Okay, he now has a job on news. Now is it with Newsmax? Okay, great, fantastic. We had a show with Newsmax. Fantastic company. His email was forwarded to 8 agents at the DOJ staff, including notorious anti-Trump FBI special agent Walter Gardenia, who responded 2 days later to say that he was investigating the claims in a Forbes article about Trump and the J6 prisoner choir. Esther and I are working on this today. We're going to put together findings at 2 and get something to you shortly after that. Gardenia was Agent Zero in a lot of the overzealous FBI actions, including Trump and his allies, including the investigation of the Trump White House, advisor Peter Navarro, contempt of Congress, and so on. Again, we're going to have General Flynn on the show. We're going to have all the time we need with General Flynn to talk about this. You want to talk about real patient zero is General Flynn. General Flynn was the first guy in Trump's orbit to get this type of treatment. It was Gardenia's FBI team that arrested Navarro as he was about to board a plane in Reagan National Airport in 2022, put him in leg irons and threw him in jail instead of simply issuing a summons to come to court. Federal judge overseeing the case later said, while criticizing the heavy-handedness, why don't we do that to them? That's what I don't get. Where are the early morning raids? We're gonna ask Flynn about this. Where are the Roger Stone style raids? We were with Roger Stones when we were filming that, the J6 Choir. Where are those? You remember how they told CNN to stand outside of Roger Stone's? And we were with Brendan Carr, FCC director of the FCC. Remember that? They told CNN to stand outside of Roger Stone's house so they could film Roger Stone being arrested at 4 a.m. Special Forces raid on Roger Stone, who's like 80 years old. Gardenia was significantly involved in Crossfire Hurricane, the debunked Russia collusion hoax, Mueller's investigation cases involving Trump, allies Dan Scavino, Roger Stone, and Hillary Clinton email cases. According to Chuck Grassley, Gardenia was the initial recipient of the Steele dossier and falsely claimed that the bogus Clinton campaign smear sheet against Trump was corroborated to be true. Gardenia also electronically wiped the laptop he was assigned, working special counsel Robert Mueller outside of the established protocol for record preservation, raising the possibility that he destroyed government records. Well, that's really interesting. It's like Trump's trying to tell us something. Hey, Alex, can you grab me that clip that went so thermonuclear viral yesterday? Trump, I am now the hunter. Ooh. Starting to get those vibes. President Trump said something yesterday. He always does this, where he outlines what's about to happen. If you're listening closely and you're able to read the tea leaves, I think it's got 10,000 retweets on our X. If you read the tea leaves and you pay attention, President Trump always tells you what he's about to do. They were hunting me, now I am the hunter. Was he talking about Iran? I don't know. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Trump assassinations. There it is. We're going to talk about the Trump assassinations attempts, because there's new ones. And they all tie through to the FBI. They tie through to James Comey, right? Man, but after reading this, I got chills. And I'm like, dude, Trump was telling us. Trump was telling us right here. How'd that do? I got millions of views. Got nearly 10,000 reposts. 65,000 likes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here's President Trump yesterday telling you what's about to happen. Here we go.
I've had it for a long time. In the first term I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
He's talking there to Real American Voice correspondent at the White House. His name's Brian Glenn. He's a totally decent homie. He's a really nice dude. Anyway, this is Trump sort of caught in crosstalk there, right? It's amazing. That wasn't supposed to be broadcast. President Trump like sort of whispering to Brian Glenn there, I was the hunted, and now I am the hunter. Whistleblowers have told Chuck Grassley, that Gardenia openly stated his desire to investigate Trump, even if it meant false predication because of his hostility towards the future president. Grassley believes that the email chain is another clear example of how federal law enforcement apparatus was weaponized to try and get Trump at all costs. Instead of focusing on the DOJ and FBI's core law enforcement responsibilities, Grassley told the Post, partisan prosecutors and their agents were surfing the web to find any shred of information they could use to spin another baseless case against Donald Trump, using the J6 choir. Using the J6 choir. We got to get Julie Kelly on to talk about this. She knows all these people in the J6 choir. Let's see if we can get Julie tomorrow. Insane. Grassley, known as the patron saint of whistleblowers, is working with Patel and his deputy, Dan Bongino, to ferret out lawfare correspondence hidden in the FBI headquarters. What I think is insane about this is that Gardenia this guy wasn't followed. What a difference. So this rat wasn't fired in Trump's first administration. Do you understand? Like, we were dealing with two very different Trumps here. This rat wasn't fired in Trump's first administration. He was allowed to continue on. He worked at the DOJ and the FBI throughout the first Trump term. Could you imagine what that's like having that giant guillotine over your head? Having all of these people. There were no mass layoffs in the FBI or the DOJ. They fired Comey, and then instantly the entire system clamped down around Trump because of the absolute feebleness and weakness of President Trump's past Attorney General. What a coward. But now we have a very, very different operation around President Trump. They've learned so very much. And now is not the time to F around. So this is the absolute core rot that President Trump was having to deal with inside of the FBI. And it continues to this day. But now they've F'd around, and hopefully they'll be able to find out. Now, James Comey. James Comey, as you know, posts 8647. What that is, of course, the call for an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Comey, deleted it and apologized, but he knows what it means, and you know what it means. Here's the post. I still think think about how unbelievably lame it is. James Comey wandering around the beach in a a Borat Speedo, putting seashells together and crying. You can almost see the teardrops there in the sand. He's now been reduced to arranging seashells on the seashore, like a angsty, hormonal teenage girl. That alone is punishment in and of itself. Comey was dragged into Secret Service headquarters and questions about this. Comey, I hope there is further action on it. We'll see. Because what it is a direct threat. We all know what this means. Obviously, we've covered it many times. But what we wanted to dig down into, right? Like a bunker buster, getting a little bit lower and understand that James Comey worked in federal law enforcement and was the top dog for 30 years. James Comey has splinter agents all throughout the federal government. He has black ops teams. This is just something that you have to understand. DC itself is this infested rat's nest where everyone's connected to everybody else. Everyone has dirt on everyone else. James Comey was directly responsible for probably hundreds, if not thousands, of Secret Service agents getting hired, definitely thousands of FBI agents being hired that are still working. He has, unlike someone who's posting from some granny, some lib, childless granny cat lady, box of wine from Youngstown, Ohio, who doesn't have a background in federal law enforcement or any type of power. I'm not saying it's right for her to post this either, but when James Comey posts it, it is a explicit call. You have to look deeper. He has the opportunity and he has the power to do something really bad. He still does, right? There's still people loyal to James Comey, as proven by this Post article. James Comey was fired, and these people, this Gardenia, he was still an agent of Comey. He was going after and doing Comey's work. This guy was pulling the strings. It's very dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. And we warned about that. That's the true problem here. Cash Patel and Dan Bongino. Let's just play these back to back, please. Both saying our major concern here is that James Comey still has a ton of power inside this agency. He's a rat. He's been a rat in here for decades. And that James Comey is going to inspire people, the copycats. He's going to inspire people to go out and try and kill Trump. That was the purpose of this post. It was an order, right? Here's Bongino and Cash warning us about what's about to happen. Here we go.
What did you make of your predecessors' walk on the beach with the shells 8647?
You know, the FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey is a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was the leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal FISA court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
Well, James Comey was just on talking about all of that, the seashells and everything, and he also talked about you.
Obviously, you start with the fact that the guy has literally nothing in his entire adult life that prepares him for this role, and so that's deeply concerning to start with. In a way, I kind of a little bit sorry for the guy. He's barked at the FBI nonsense for years, and now he not only caught the car, he's got to drive the car, and so that is a daunting task for him. I hope he lets the career people do their jobs, but they've already forced out a bunch of good career people and sent a chill through the organization.
That's James Comey.
If he wants to come after me, no problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we've had to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director?
Is that right?
Do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke, and they can...
I got to tell you, of all the things that have surprised me in the close to now 3 months I've been here is the depravity of Jim Comey. This man is a disgrace to the badge, the FBI, and the country. What he's doing right now, one, going out and taking shots at Cash. Cash doesn't belong. Cash was the chief of staff at the Department of. Cash is a patriot. Cash has served in numerous high-level roles, taking personal shots while you're on the beach, implying a threat towards the president and blaming your wife about it. And let me just add about James Comey, Saint Comey, who walks around there moralizing to everyone how wonderful of a human being he is. What you said is absolutely accurate. We have wasted countless man hours now running out tips to our tip line about people putting 8647 because of Jim Comey, because he cannot control himself and his emotions. He is a child.
So they warned us. They warned us what was about to happen. Here we go. Military sharpshooter Peter Stinson has made dozens of threats to kill Donald Trump. He's repeated the 8647 line again and again and again and again. He was just liberated from prison. Let's read. The former U.S. Coast Guard lieutenant charged with making online threats to kill Trump has been bailed on the condition that he declares his home gun-free and pays for his internet use to be monitored, Daily Mail can reveal. Oh, interesting. I wonder if did they give this option to J6ers? Who peacefully were welcomed by the police officers into the Capitol building to wave American flags and walk within like the velvet ropes. Did any J6er get this? No, they sat in prison. They rotted in prison. I'm getting really tired of this double standard. Anyway, let's continue. Trained sharpshooter Peter Stinson is his name. 63, was arrested on Friday, charged with making a slew of disturbing social media posts against the president, including saying that he needed to be Luigi'd, a reference to Luigi Mangione, a man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO. But in a hearing on Wednesday, federal magistrate Judge Ivan Davis said he will order the self-declared Antifa activist. It really does make you wonder, like, who the hell is our military recruiting? So this guy's an Antifa activist. He's threatening to kill the president, and the military is giving him sharpshooter training. Gotta have a little better vetting here. Released on home detention. Got it. The judge's release order came despite strong objections by prosecutors who argued that Stinson was a danger to the president and a wider public. Prosecutor Natasha Stalkey promoted a chilling February 2025 post in which Stinson allegedly asked how much collateral damage is appropriate. If, say, 2 of the 3 top targets can be completed, what sort of collateral damage is okay? So he's openly talking about the strategy of murdering Donald Trump. I'd say other fascists and orange emoticon psychopaths are fair game for sure. A raid of Stinson's home in Oakton, Virginia, so he doesn't even live that far away from D.C., by federal investigators last week, found only 2 BB guns and an empty safe in his truck. But the decorated veteran with 3 decades had also told agents that he was looking after his father's rifle. He could not locate it. A copy of the order obtained by the Daily Mail states that Stinson, who has no valid passport, is banned from obtaining a new passport or travel documents and must remain at his home except for court-sanctioned exemptions and refrain from having any contact or affiliation with extremist organizations. Look at this guy. So J6ers get tossed in prison and they throw away the key, solitary confinement. They don't even get trials for years. And you openly threaten the president of the United States. And let's go over this thread from Ford Fisher, please, Clem. To look through, let's look through some, like, what did this guy say exactly? This guy has, we have the posts here. You want to just toss them up? Let's just, yeah, we can just look through. This is his account. Here it is, parroting James Comey. Okay, so just like proving that out to be true. This is his account. Just keep going. Here's some here's some examples right here that we were able to pull from his account on Blue Sky, which is still up, by the way. Is that correct, ALX? Okay, so his account's still active. Got it. He hasn't even been banned from Blue Sky. So the guy who's threatening open threats to murder the president of the United States, which of course is illegal. Please grab me the federal statute. Please give me that federal statute. You cannot threaten the life of the president of the United States. Okay, don't like robe yourself in like free speech here. You can't do it. Don't do it. Don't threaten anyone's life. Period. But you definitely can't do it against the president of the United States. 18 U.S. Code 871, threats against the president and successors to the presidency. This includes the Speaker of the House, includes the Vice President, includes the Secretary of the Treasury, and so on. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it by mail. You're not allowed to do it by phone, electronically. You're not allowed to do that. They'll toss your ass in prison. I think it's 5 years, like a guaranteed 5 years. Toss your ass in prison when you do it. Don't do it. It's crazy. Okay. So let's see. What does he say? Give him no oxygen. Block bad actors. Mute trigger words. Give no second chances. Does it make me a bad person to want Trump dead? Would it make me a bad person if I pulled the trigger? Somebody needs to pull the trigger. I'll pull the trigger. But I'm about as poor of a shot as Wayne LaPierre. Would somebody please just finish the job? Pull the damn trigger, please. Wow, these are all in responses or directly posted about President Trump. Total and complete copycat. Look at this. 8647. He's straight up doing the same post as James Comey. What have we been warning about? Splinter cells within our government, within our military, that are either listening explicitly or implicitly to James Comey. Now he's been released. Really, really remarkable here, ladies and gentlemen. He's been released. Here's the news.
Fairfax County, where a former Coast Guard officer accused of threatening President Trump on social media will be able to stay home as he awaits trial. That's against prosecutors' wishes. The judge ruled prosecutors did not prove Peter Stinson was a serious threat. He also questioned whether the post constituted a real threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't think of a better person to be on the program to comment on this, and of course to comment on some of the other spiraling situations around the globe than the great General Michael Flynn, former National Security Advisor, joining us live right now. General, should we be allowing military-trained sharpshooters who have explicitly threatened the life of the president to just go free?
Yeah, Benny, I saw, a part of that last segment there where you were showing some of his online stuff. I've been going through that for years. The person that I think really needs to be gone after by the government, and I mean full force, is James Comey. I mean, there are nut jobs out there that we do have to be concerned about. I got to be concerned about them all the time, because if somebody spews hatred about me or says, all kinds of crazy stuff about me online, and it's been going on for years, wrongly, that what happens is, and those are people with big accounts in some cases. I mean, some big accounts. So they influence a certain dimension of America or other crazy places, that other crazy people, and they do cause these copycat, or they cause somebody to lose their mind and say, this guy's a traitor, so he's got to be dealt with, right? Jim Comey, I mean, I don't do that about people online. Jim Comey did that about the president of the United States. You showed that clip of Dan Bongino on Fox News, the morning show there. I mean, to me, and nothing has happened. And it's not just this with Comey. It goes back to when he stood up there in the summer of 2016 and talked about how he was going to let Hillary Clinton off the hook. And from that moment on, if you didn't know the mindset of Jim Comey, then by then at that moment, we now know the type of person that this guy is. His nickname's the Cardinal, the Saint, whatever. But Comey is he's the bad actor in this. And I know that the Secret Service went and questioned him. This guy needs to be brought in and really felt the pain of a potential indictment for making comments about the demise, about basically assassinating the president of the United States of America. There's no way in the world that Comey didn't understand what Deep Six meant. Okay, no way in the world. So, and there's no way in the world that Comey doesn't realize, having been in the positions he's been in his career, doesn't realize that copycats are going to occur. So, and that's where my energy would be at if I were in any sort of position of authority.
Were you given any leniency by the FBI? Were you given any leniency by federal judges? I mean, were they did they play really nice with you?
No, Benny, I'm telling you, I get it. I get it to this day. And because of what the Department of Justice did, what the FBI did, and then of course what the media then jumped on board to do, and the left-leaning media. I mean, I've been on the major cover of every single major left media outlet in the world. Okay, not just New York Times and Washington Post, the front page. I mean, cover of the Rolling Stone. I mean, and when you do that and you're called, certain names, there's a group of people out there that will always believe that propaganda, and that propaganda has continued. It's just like Trump. I tell people, Benny, that the only person that's been through a level of persecution, other than what I went through wrongly. I mean, the FBI, they lied about everything. The Department of Justice lied about everything. We now know, what Russiagate was all about. But the bigger issue, Benny, that we're facing, and we're facing it right now. So all this business about assassination attempts against Trump, because his life is threatened constantly. And I want your audience to know, and anybody else that listens to these clips, the president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump's life is threatened constantly. And it gets worse when you have former senior government officials in the likes of a former director of the FBI, Cardinal Comey, saying and doing and acting out the kinds of things that he acted out with putting this down. There you go. That's his time when he summer of 2016 talking about how Hillary Clinton needed to get, we weren't going to go after her. We weren't going to indict her, even though she did things that I know people that are in prison for doing much, much less. I mean, people forget the young man who had took a photo in a submarine, basically a seaman in a submarine in the Navy, took a photo because he wanted to show his mom where he worked. He went to prison for a year because they said, well, he took a photo of a classified, and so the military put him in jail for a year. I mean, there's examples out there that I could go on and on about, but this guy right here is one of the most dangerous left-leaning Marxist members of this socialist movement in America. and he's at one of the soldiers at the forefront of it.
So, General, it seems like we're going to go to war with Iran over an assassination threat to President Trump. I'm not saying that they did or didn't. I haven't seen any direct evidence that Iran is trying to kill President Trump. If I saw that, if you can prove that to me, then I'll be all for it, because like I don't, you're not allowed to assassinate the President of the United States, okay? But nobody's been able to present that to me. Nonetheless, here's the director of the FBI with direct evidence of a call, implicit or explicit, of an assassination to Donald Trump. And now here's proof of a series of military-level sharpshooter assassins who've then taken that call and have posted. Here's his mugshot right here. Federal authorities have said that this man is a trained military marksman, and he's calling for he's doing a copycat. Exactly what Cash and Dan said. Yeah. And so, like, if we're willing to go to war with Iran for unspecified assassination attempts on Donald Trump, why wouldn't we go after James Comey, like with this implicit threat?
Yeah, I mean, this is the frustration, Benny, that you're presenting right now, that millions and millions of Americans feel. This is not just some MAGA crowd on X. This is the sentiment of millions of Americans across this country, to include many who are sort of borderline. They're not sure whether they're Democrats or Republicans. The American people are so tired of the lack of accountability by these government officials who have done things like what we're talking about Comey right now. And there's many others, many others who have done things to this country and they've gotten away with it. So, if there's investigations ongoing by the Department of Justice, fine. And I know that there are some. I do know that there are some investigations ongoing, but I don't. I think the American people want to see action, and they need to be told. One of the things in the military, Benny, that you do is you got to keep the troops informed. You don't have to tell them all the things that need to be, that's happening behind the scenes with the commanders who are making decisions about what we're going to do or what we're not going to do. But you have to, as a leader, you got to go out and you've got to inform the troops. Here's what objectives are. Here is what we are doing. And this is my kind of call right now to take a strategic step back, Benny. I think we're in a place now where I firmly believe that the President of the United States, because, there's a lot of people that don't think Pam Bondi's up to the task. We'll see what happens. Cash and Dan, they're doing great. I mean, they're out there trying to do things. We see a lot of action, but not the type of action that I think people are looking for, particularly the MAGA, and I'll call it the MAGA or America First mandate that put President Donald J. Trump into office. And that includes there's a lot of people that were left of center that voted for him. And they voted for him because he was bringing people in to do different things, like Bobby Kennedy, make America healthy again. Bobby Kennedy's doing some things. So I actually think right now the President of the United States is going to have to get everybody out of the room, do some self-reflection. Maybe he's got one or two really, really critical people that he does listen to that will shut up while he's thinking. And when he asks a question, they'll give him good, honest advice. And he's going to have to talk to the American people. It's not a State of the Union to Congress to figure out whether or not we're going to get a budget passed. This is a state of clarity of vital national security interests at this moment in time, because we are in a, it's this kind of stuff with people like Comey, and there's others out there that have done stuff. John Brennan is another one who I've been calling for, to be held accountable for the kinds of things that we're doing. You mentioned Iran, which is part of what I know we wanted to talk about today. But all of this is coming together to a head, Benny, because it's going to, this period of time, this moment, and I'm talking about this week, these next couple of days, the critical nature of the historic moment that we are in. And this is where there's a lot of, and I still get around. I still get a lot of people that I speak to in this country who I've been traveling, up north, out west, and just the last couple of weeks to do just different things to do political things, to help people run for office or whatever. And so I get people that come up to me all the time. People need clarity from the boss. And so my thing is to sit there and to say in a quiet moment, Mr. President, that reflect on what it is that we are doing, that we need to achieve, and that what your plans are for this country going forward. And I mean that. I mean that in the most heartfelt way, because there's confusion, there's lack of understanding, there's a lot of propaganda. The left machine, the disinformation, misinformation, propaganda machine, I call it fifth generation warfare that we're in. The Chinese government is not, they haven't rolled over because of tariffs. They have not. So yeah, so we are in a moment of where we require strategic clarity as to what our vital national security interests are here at home, number one, okay, America first, and then what are our vital national security interests overseas?
Yes.
Iran, Ukraine. This is a moment when the president, I think, he's going to have to do it. He has to do it. We can't wait another week or so to figure out with bombs and missiles. And, I saw last night where the Iranians fired a missile now with multiple warheads, which is a different capability that we have not seen. They've been firing these missiles that are just, sort of free rockets over ground type missiles, and they hit targets, and they're not even sure the Iranians aren't even sure what targets they're going to hit. They just know the distance that they're going to go and the azimuth that they're going to go on. Now they're firing missiles with multiple warheads. So that's tactical though, Benny. The West, the NATO West, what do they want? They're gonna talk about the Middle East as though we shouldn't be doing this. The United States shouldn't be doing this, but they're going to do a war in Eastern Europe with Russia. What we ought to be doing is figuring out ways to bring Russia back into the Western fold. There was a time when we thought about bringing Russia into NATO, and that's back in the 90s, and I know that for a fact. So we have to figure out how to get out, how to unash ourselves from this war in Eastern Europe, bring Russia back into the fold of the West, get them out of the hands of China, because as I said earlier in a post that I put out probably 2:00 this morning, we have got to figure out how do we, like we've heard the phrase in the past, pivot to the Pacific. We have got to pivot back to now what we call the Indo-Pacific. Why? Because India and China represent a third of the population of the planet. And people tend to forget that India and China are part of what's called the BRICS consortium, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS consortium, which is trying to control the global economic conditions, whether or not the US dollar is going to be the dollar of choice. All of these things matter. All of these things matter. Back to the beginning, Benny, what you talked about, these wannabes that see somebody like a Comey say, imply or actually specify that the president of the United States needs to be deep sixed. A former, federal prosecutor, a former director of the FBI, a former senior government official of both, of two presidents, Obama and Trump, until Trump rightly fired him. This is one of those times where we're going to have a lot of people in this country, and frankly, I don't know whether, I haven't seen the bulletproof intelligence about Iran, but I've seen a lot of information about Iranian influence in the demise, the assassination. They certainly, the leadership has talked about, basically, destroying and there's been mentions of killing Trump. But that's something that the president of the United States has to deal with on a daily basis. That's why he has the Secret Service. And the Secret Service, I'm sorry, Benny, go ahead.
No, I want to get to Iran, and I really want to get your take on this landscape, because you were national security advisor to the president of the United States. You still have a deep well of knowledge of this, and obviously fought wars for America in this region. So I want to get there. But before we move off of this Comey news cycle and this new assassination of Donald Trump news cycle, you said something on our program a month and a half ago, where you said, Jim, speaking directly to Comey, you should have finished the job. And I know you tried to have me killed. Can you expand on that? I've never asked a follow-up on that, General. What was going on there?
I'm going to tell you, there was a moment, and this is, I've told this story in my documentary, and I got a book coming out here pretty soon. In fact, the 24th of this month, called Pardon of Innocence. One of the things that happened was I, got to a point with the Department of Justice, with the Mueller investigation, Comey right in the middle of this thing, Wiseman and the whole crew, and where I finally started to fight back, because I got to a place where it was like mentally with my family and intellectually, frankly, where we really started to get much better clarity on what was going on. I mean, I knew the whole time that I hadn't lied to the FBI agents. What they did was they came after my son. So that story has been told, and people can go watch the documentary that we created to historically define and tell the American people, those that care, of what that was about. So when I stood up eventually and said, look, I'm dumping this white shoe law firm called Covington and Burling, which is not too far from where I'm sitting today, who was made up of people like Eric Holder, right? And I began to learn some of the things that they were doing against me, my own law firm at that time, right? And other people started to come into my life, very talented lawyers. Not just Sidney Powell, who's incredibly talented lawyer, but others that were close and getting information from inside of the Department of Justice. And I stood there and I said, I'm done. I'm gonna pull my guilty plea and we're going to war. Okay. And there was about a 6-month period of time where there was an investigation of my case, and then my case, my guilty plea or my case ended up getting dismissed, which most people don't know. And I tell it in the documentary that President Trump in roughly April timeframe of 2020, before my case was dismissed, called us up, said, hey, if Flynn wants because he knew then, if Flynn wants a pardon, I'll give him a pardon right now. We'll end this thing. And I said, I said, nope, I don't want it. I said, we're at war. We are going to fight this because I know I'm not guilty. And everything that I did prior to plead guilty in front of a judge, I did it for a very specific reason, and that was to protect my family. So all that said, when they knew this, Benny, they knew what that conversation that Trump had with me, basically, not me, but through my lawyers. And that's the moment when they were like, oh shit, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. And I'll tell you, I could see it online. I could see it. And even though I was off communications on social media for damn near 3 years, but I was not, I was paying attention, and I could see the hatred and the spewing of basically vicious threats to my life rise. I could see it going up. And then all of a sudden, when my case was dismissed, it went crazy. It was like a skyrocket. And now I see, even now, up till now, I see that there's they have to be paid people. They got to be paid, because or they're just so nutty. They're so crazy. Kind of like the guy that you were describing here. That was he basically joined in what Comey was wanting to do to the president of the United States. So these were people that were online that were starting to make threats against my life. And now all of a sudden, instead of just being a guy that took, had my case dismissed, had to fight it through, I ended up having to get a pardon because the judge, a very vicious, evil judge, would not let go. And when that judge didn't let go, he was doing the same thing that Comey did. The judge, by not letting go, was making it as though Flynn is a bad guy. Flynn is a traitor. In fact, the judge even said on the stand, on his bench, could he have been tried for treason? I mean, there was nothing in that. There was nothing that was ever said about me, about with using that word. But when the judge did that, he all of a sudden, he didn't put a target on my back. He put one right on my forehead. And man, I'm going to tell you the number of threats to my life. So when that stuff happens, and they do it deceptively, they lie, and they provide this propaganda and this misinformation because, the bigger issues, and it's something that I've always known, Benny, and I want your audience to know this, and I tell this to the American people, wherever I go, whoever will listen. We are in the midst of a Marxist revolution in this country, and Barack Obama is the guy that really initiated it. And there was a decision made by by his administration to create these conditions, and then to bring Hillary Clinton in. She would take it for another 8 years. And Benny, you wouldn't be around, to have the great audience that you have to do the things. And I damn sure wouldn't be around. So that was the intent, the strategic intent. That was the strategic direction that this country was going to go in. And walks in Donald J. Trump, President Trump. Whatever reason, whatever people want to think about him, he gave up everything. He gave up a very cushy, and people can call him what they want to call him. The man is like any man. He's imperfect, right? He's got faults. He's made mistakes. He's done things that are maybe, that he will sit there and go, geez, maybe that was a bad decision. He's had people around him that weren't so good. But I will tell you, the one fabric that I know from the very moment I met him in August of 2015, just a couple of weeks after he came down that escalator, and I got a call to come meet with him. We spent hours together, and the one fabric that I know that Donald Trump will never let unravel in his DNA is his love of this country. That man loves this country, and he has given up everything and fighting for everything. But it doesn't mean that he's going to make great decisions all the time. Back to the here and now. Mm-hmm. Because we have a tendency in this country, Benny, to be very short-sighted and to think in terms of, gratification and what I need right now and how I'm going to feel this weekend and what I'm going to do this weekend, instead of thinking long-term. And Donald Trump needs to put on his sort of long-term thinking cap and his critical thinking cap. And, he's got advisors around him. Get everybody out of the room. Maybe just like I said earlier, bring one or two. Tell him to shut up until he's got a question. But and make some notes to himself, because he's a great writer too. A lot of times I would see people giving him speeches and he'd be scribbling through them. Now is a moment that the American people, America first, right? Trump's not doing this for Israel. He's not doing this for, he knows he's got to do and make decisions for the betterment of the people of the United States of America. Jim Comey, John Brennan, and others of that ilk. If the Department of Justice does its job, and I know that there are some people in there, but down below the deck plates, Benny, down in the bowels, there are still people that are working against this administration and working against Trump in the Department of Justice. Never mind in the intelligence community, in the Department of Defense, and in the Department of State, the sort of the national security structure of our country. I know that for a fact, because we have people coming to us, whistleblowers, if you will, and we have been filing, helping people file cases, and we have some, and these cases are on the docket. So, and we're feeding them in. So I know that there's certain things happening, but Trump needs to take a step back, because, we cannot have former members of the FBI, because that's exactly what you have. You have these copycats, right? You have these copycats that come out. I know it for a fact, because I've had to deal with them. And when it happens, when people spew misinformation about me, I started to try to fight back with lawsuits and stuff. That's miserable. That's not something that I can afford nor do. And frankly, it's not that easy when you are a high profile person. It's just not that easy. So I in a way, I've sort of given up that, and I'm doing it in a different way. I'm doing it in the way that I believe that, frankly, sort of like what a leadership lesson for everybody: control what you can control, and then take control of it. So where I'm at in my life right now, what I'm trying to do for this country, what I'm trying to do for Donald Trump and the members of his administration, is to inform. I can get out in front of him if I want to, and there are times when I can disagree with him, and disagree publicly, because I'm not, right there in that situation room, right? I would disagree with him publicly in that situation room, but once I come out of that situation room, I'm not going to go outside, the wire and criticize him. That's happening to a degree from people that are in his inner circle. That has to stop. That has to stop. And this is where Trump is such a magnificent type of communicator, where he needs to say, and I know that he listens to this show, and I know that he hears some of the things that I say. But I really do believe, Benny, that this is a moment of that requires national clarity and a statement of where we are as a nation, because what are we, Iran is sort of, the what's on tap right now. Yeah, I mean, you're showing some people there that people are confused. There's a lot of confusion right now. So anyway, I'll pause there, Ben.
I want to talk I just, with the time that we have left, I want to jump into this. So Iran, do they have a nuclear weapon? Have they tried to assassinate Donald Trump? Do you have any information that would push one way or the other? You've been national security advisor. How would you advise the president in this moment?
Yeah. So one piece of background on me is I was the senior intelligence officer at United States Central Command, which is in the news these days because President Trump has had to communicate with.
It's down the street from us. It's literally a couple blocks away, actually.
So President Trump has had to, probably on a daily basis or multiple times a day, he's talking to General Eric Kurilla, who's the current commander of Central Command. So I was the senior intelligence officer, and I will tell you, CENTCOM, the Central Command that takes care of a number of the nations out there in that part of the world, probably has the best, is one of the best intelligence systems on the planet, certainly for the United States of America. There's some really, really talented people there. And there was a lot of talented people there when I was there. So I was there in 2007 to 2008. And at that time, we were observing what Iran was doing. So when you think about Fordow or some of these other places, Arak, I mean, they're building those things at that time. So we could actually see the ongoing construction of those, of the depths of them, all the kinds of things that we know that they have. That was 2007 to 2008. And I had been doing this, Benny, and I'd been in Iraq for 3 years prior to that with the most advanced special operations capabilities in the world, Iraq and Afghanistan and East Africa. So I'm paying very close attention to Iran because Iran was killing our soldiers in Iraq, particularly with these explosively formed projectile EFPs, right? These IEDs. So I give your audience that background because this is not some place that I'm just sort of coming in from the bleachers, right? I mean, I've been at this for a long time. So to answer your question, Iran was beyond 60% enriching uranium, which you can actually create a not so capable, but still you can have a capable nuclear device at that level. People will say, nah, it's bullshit. No, it's not. It's not. What you want is you want 90%. But once you get past 3% enriched uranium, you can move very quickly, like rapidly. And they had the ability, you got to spin the centrifuges, and I won't get into all the technical stuff, but people can go look it up. But once you get to that point, and I think Rubio's made a great comment the other day, you can get to weaponizing one of these ballistic missiles. So the technology to marry nuclear capabilities with ballistic capabilities, and then the technology to put it together, the Chinese have it, Russians have it, North Koreans have it, Pakistanis have it. I mean, all those countries are aligned for the most part with Iran. So it's not like, and the Iranians are pretty smart people. They've got, we're seeing great engineering prowess, particularly military engineering prowess from the Iranians right now with all this ballistic missile capability. I mean, they're the ones that provided the Houthis ballistic missiles that can fire the Houthis. I mean, these guys are like shower shoes and bathrobes firing from desert locations, and they're launching rockets all the way into Israel. The Houthis, okay, a surrogate Iranian terrorist organization, almost took out a U.S. aircraft carrier in basically in the Djibouti, Saudi Sea of Arabia area. They almost took out a U.S. aircraft carrier, the Houthis. So when we think about the sophistication of Iran, they are very sophisticated. On the assassination, I do believe that the Iranians are behind an assassination attempt or attempts on the president of the United States. I feel I'm very uncomfortable with things that I become aware of people in Mexico, people in Venezuela, and the Iranians had a long-term relationship between Tehran and Caracas. Okay, and there's been a lot of movement of aircraft, certainly back and forth over many, many years. You know, same thing up and into Mexico City because of embassies that exist. I mean, embassies, people think embassies is, you know, some ambassador. Embassies are like platforms, and every country in the world knows this. Embassies are like platforms to conduct operations from. Let's face it. I mean, and we can, you know, that's all open source and we can read about that. So what I'm concerned about is are people inside of this country, left-leaning communists who are former members of our government, who are still operating in and around this nation and in and around certainly the intelligence community, because they still maintain some modicum of control or influence, despite Donald Trump taking, despite Donald Trump taking clearances from them. Doesn't matter. These people still have influence, and Trump is a existential threat, meaning that he is a threat to the way that these people want this country to go. Okay, which, like I said, we're in the midst of a Marxist revolution, and these people want this country to go towards a American sort of way of socialism or communism with American characteristics, right? Like China is a different type of communism than Russia, you know, Venezuela, Cuba. They have their own sort of characteristics. That's what people that were former members of the Bush administration and definitely members of the Obama administration, and people that were around the Clinton, even the Clintons back to when Bill Clinton was in charge. I mean, communism has always been a threat in our country. It always has been. Communist Party of America was formed out of New York State, in New York City, in the late 1919, 1920, the Bolshevik Revolution. So, you know, I don't go through a history lesson here, but this has been a problem for our country for a long time. I believe there was a decision made, and I believe this, and I can go back and cite different times that this was made when there was a decision that Obama was going to be the president of the United States, and they almost had Gore in, right, except for one county down in Florida. So that's where we are. I'm not making this up. I'm not, reading it on the internet. This is my life, Benny. This has been my life this is what I study. This is what I examine. This is what I analyze. And I have a lot of people that I listen to, and I make my own decisions about where we are. What I'm saying is what I believe. People can take it for what it's worth, or they can turn it in, throw it in the circular file. We are in I would say, I said this the other night, and I hate to be Debbie Downer, but we're sort of in a moment of grave risk, and Trump has to be very careful, because, and that's one of the things that I said on X. I put it out on X this morning, that the Chinese, when we deal with the Chinese, because the Chinese are supporting Iran, okay? Chinese are supporting Iran in a big way. When we deal with China, we cannot forget that they have been stealing from us blind through our labs, through our universities, through our corporate world for the last 30 years, taking intellectual property. They have also been murdering, hundreds of thousands of people in the last few years. Tom Homan said the other day, this past year, 250,000 deaths from fentanyl. Okay, fentanyl. I think Tom Homan said that less than a week ago. So that's a number. I thought it was maybe 100,000. When he said 250,000 this year. So never mind the last few years. So we're dealing with a country, China, the CCP, not the Chinese people, the CCP, because it's always that way. It's like Iran. It's not the Iranian people. It's the Iranian regime. It's the dictatorship that's controlling that country, just like the dictatorship that's controlling China. So they've been killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. They've been inserting fentanyl down into the streets of our urban components of our country, the cities, right? And they get control of district attorneys. They get control of mayors. This is what the left does. This is what the left does. This is how communism doesn't sleep. Communism doesn't give up. So we can't. And we have taken for granted our freedoms in this country for far too long. And it doesn't mean that I want anybody to give up any freedoms that they have. But I want people to wake up to what it is, what it means to get involved in this country, what it means to serve this country. And this is what Donald Trump needs right now. Donald Trump needs every single American who believes in our Constitution, who believes in our rights, who believes in the future of this country, who wants to squeeze another 250 years out of our existence. That's what Donald Trump needs, because he's one man and he's got monumental pressure and weight on his shoulders, right? Of the weight of the world, right? And I know that he's totally focused on what needs to be done, what's best for America. All these other people that are out there whining about the Middle East and whether we're going to get more involved or whether we're going to get involved in the Middle East. Hey, folks, let me give you a little secret here. We're involved in the Middle East. We pay billions of dollars to every Arab country there, billions. We give them weapon systems. We give them training. We give them education. We give them access to our country, every Arab country. We do the same for Israel. Israel happens to be an ally versus a partner, which is a much differently defined relationship. And so Israel is a democracy too. Israel is something that, all this stuff about Zionism and Jews, it's all bullshit. If we don't stand right now with them, and I'm not like a guy that's going to sit there and kiss anybody's ass, okay? That's part of the reason why I'm on the outside right now, because I don't kiss didn't kiss the ring of Obama, don't kiss the ring of the GOP, frankly. And I'm not somebody that's going to stand there and not speak my mind to a guy like Donald Trump when everybody in the room's go, oh, we can't talk like that. No, there's only a few people that probably do that. And I'm one of them. And I'm not to pat myself on the back, but to say, look, we are in a historic time right now. And either we're going to continue this moral decline, and I mean moral in a very precise way, because the Christian community and the faith-based community in this country has, thank God that they sort of came back in this last election, because like Trump says, too big to rig. I mean, there's going to be so much information, and like Cash put out the other day, he released some information about the election of 2020, right? And I said a week or two after the election of 2020, there was foreign influence that we knew of then, but nobody wanted to say anything, right? Everybody started to beat us across the head and shoulders. And Trump's own team, inside his own team, inside the White House, they were telling him, give it up, walk away. Nothing happened. You lost. You lost to brain dead Biden, right? And he was brain dead then. So I've been living this, Benny. I've been living this. You've been living it. Others who play in my world, which is the world of national security and what's best for this country. And we are, so I appreciate you giving me time to just go on my diatribe here, because we need a real clarity out of President Trump. And I, he's going to do it whether I say it or not. He knows he needs to do it.
Our major
big boy,
Our major contention here, General, is that nobody voted for regime change in 2024 in the Mideast or for another forever war. Also, nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I think that's totally that's a absolutely acceptable worldview, right? That you have to thread a needle here, and I think President Trump's doing his best to thread that needle. Yep. However, the nuclear bomb already exists here in this country, which is 20 million criminal aliens, many of them terrorists, some of them perhaps splinter cells or black ops teams that were brought in here by our enemies. They're already here. We have a neo-confederacy in these blue cities and blue states that are bucking federal law on immigration and refusing to hand over their criminal aliens. That's a brand new confederacy. That's a new civil war. That's happening right now. We have a Republican Congress that refuses to codify President Trump's agenda and are too weak to even defund NPR. And we have like major problems here at home. Yeah. And so that is the contention of this program. That is the contention of this show and this audience. Is that like I want to focus on that. And that seems to be the largest and most existential threat to us right now. Yes, there's a nuclear bomb. It's already here. Yes, it was created by our enemies, but it's our enemies domestically here in this country. We covered this breaking news from this morning. It has to do with the Kash Patel releases, because Kash Patel is now releasing more information on the FBI. We talked about China and the thousands, millions of illegal IDs and illegal voter ballots. Here from Miranda Devine this morning, FBI emails reveal to the Post that the Biden DOJ had an absolute obsession with piling on Trump charges. And it goes through these absolute rat bastards who are just constantly looking at going after Trump for recording with the J6 prisoner choir. This is the thread of emails. They were trying to charge Trump for recording the Pledge of Allegiance. It sort of like reveals. Yeah. These are the same people that like put Peter Navarro in leg irons. These are the same people that probably went after you, right? I don't know if you know this specific
same people. Benny, let me jump in because
Gardenia is the individual that they're going after here. And I guess what I'm asking here, General, and let me like put this into a question. Sorry for the long question, but what I'm asking here is like, when do we start putting people in leg irons, right? And like when do you reverse this tactic on the people that are properly the enemy of the United States of America and are openly trying to insurrect democracy right now in our country?
Yeah. So national security and presidential authorities, okay? The president of the United States, for national security purposes, to protect and preserve, okay? He's the only one that takes the oath of office like this, where he says, to preserve the Constitution, right? Nobody, not even the VP, preserve the Constitution, never mind protect and defend. So the president with presidential authorities has the full authority to make decisions about holding people accountable. And he can hold anybody he can get up in the morning and come in and go, okay, I want the following people arrested. He can do that. He can do that if he feels that he needs to go take that measure, because we are in the midst of a internal revolution and people are trying to destroy this country internally. That we're former members of the U.S. government, senior government officials that were former members or former senior government officials. So he has the authority to do that. The president, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General of the United States is not the senior law enforcement officer in this country. They are not. She is not. The President of the United States is the senior law enforcement officer in this country, because he has extraordinary national security powers, right? And so he can make decisions. Trump doesn't want to go there. I feel it. I see it. He doesn't want to go there. So that means that the rest of his national security team, principally those in the Department of Justice and the FBI, they're going to have to go to him and make some serious recommendations, because you're right. And I'm going to tell you, the intelligence community in 2020, during that election, prior to the election, the FBI reported prior to the election, I think it was 30 October, that Iran was basically trying to manipulate and influence the outcome of the upcoming election. I think that was like the 30th of October. So the U.S. intelligence community knew then that our election in 2020 was being influenced and manipulated by foreign actors. They did nothing. They didn't report it to the president. And I had spoken to the president a couple of times during that period of time. And, there's all kinds of misreporting about what I was recommending to him. But that's an argument for another day. But our intelligence community knew then and did not come forward and say it. So now you got to go back and look at who was running the intel community then. Because I can tell you, on the 7th of January, the day after the infamous 6th of January, the day after, John Ratcliffe came out. And people can go back and look at it didn't make much, didn't get much press because J6, right? They were trying to make J6 into an insurrection. John Ratcliffe came out on the 7th of January and said the Chinese, interfered in our election. Okay, well, what? And he knew that before the 6th of January. He knew that before the 5th of January. He knew that back. So I'm just putting information out there that was known by the intel community. And John Ratcliffe finally said on the 7th of January, which I was like, when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, what did he wait this long for? Why didn't he say this way back? And then maybe President Trump could have done and made some other decisions, right? The president of the United States, just because he's the president, he doesn't get all the information, especially he doesn't get it when people withhold it from him, okay? So that's number one. That's a big box. That's a big bombshell that I just dropped on your show. And frankly, that's well known. It's well known information right there. But now, thank goodness for Cash and Dan and these guys are starting to put some of this stuff out. But it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. Then when they were able to insert Joe Biden into the White House, which is what they did, then they came after Trump. And they were really, the GOP is just as much to blame, Benny. Okay. So this is not about, I'm attacking the left. The GOP is just as much to blame. There are people in the grand old party, right, that wanted Trump to go away. They were begging that he didn't show back up on the screen and go, like he did, whatever, a year and a half later, and go, hey, I'm going to run for president again. I'm going to give it another bastards. They're not going to take me down, right? And he did. And man, believe me, there was a lot of gnashing of teeth inside the grand old party, inside the establishment of Washington, D.C. And a lot of people, you go back and look at the articles that popped up, the leaks and all that kind of stuff, not from government, but from establishment types, because they didn't want Donald Trump to come back in. Why? Because what did Donald Trump do? What did he do? And I'm not sure he knew it when he decided to run again. What he did, though, he's exposed, and frankly, this is where I'm a big fan of Elon, and I could argue about what Elon has said in the past and his past, but the Department of Government Efficiency so exposed a level of corruption, and it's not just coming from the left, okay? The corruption is all over Washington, D.C., which is where I'm at today, okay? It's where I'm at today. And if I control what you can control and take control of it, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help in my own little way, in my own little world, continue to expose this corruption.
We apologize.
Republican senator. Yep. I don't know if we dropped you.
Yeah, we just dropped you for a second. Yep. Thank you, General. Please.
Well, I was going to say, to me, I don't care who gets exposed, but Trump, he intuitively knew that he was not going to give up because he's just not a quitter. He's a fighter, as we all have learned, and his family is right there with him. That's a good thing. But Trump has so exposed a even deeper level of corruption. It's more than the deep state and some of the names that we've talked about on your show today. It is so insidious. It's so deep, and it runs across all of Washington, D.C. I was up in Capitol Hill a week ago, and I went and I met a friend over at one of the clubs, right? And I was sick to my stomach sitting in that room because I'm looking around and I'm saying to myself, God, man, these people don't get it. They don't get that we are at the edge of losing everything. And this man that you're showing right now, those executive orders, Benny, those executive orders are only as effective as those who carry them out. And if those executive orders are not being carried out, and if there's nobody checking, there's a thing in the military, like I'm sure in any business, but definitely in the military, what gets checked is what gets done. And so the president of the United States signs off on an executive order, shows everybody in the world, here's the executive order. Now that executive order has to be what's called promulgated all the way down to the ranks, right? To the lowest GS government servants, to privates in the Army or privates in the military, down to the lowest levels, the most junior levels of our government. Who's making sure that that's happening? Because I can tell you, Pete Hegseth is overwhelmed. I'm fans of all these guys, and I'm trying to do my part to help them. Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, all this noise about Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is effective. Is she got all the requisite skills and backgrounds? No, but she is somebody who has the ear of the president and has, I still believe, the trust and confidence. I hope that she does, because we cannot give up. Don't listen to the noise. But I have a lot of time for these people because they listen. They listen. And I believe that particular testimony where she talked about Iran not having nuclear weapons, to me, I believe this, and I'll say it here, I believe that was a setup, because she's only a couple of weeks into the job. So she's taken what the smartest people in our community, in intelligence community, say about something, and she presents it, right? Until she can get in and figure out what's going on and actually build a team around her that she can trust. That below the level of people at the top, so the cabinet officials, a couple of others who have been put into jobs below that level, most of those people were put in by Obama, and then they were strengthened during the Biden administration, meaning they added more people around them, right? In what's called senior special government employees or highly qualified experts, different types of government employees that are not just GS, government servants, right? Or senior executive servants or senior intelligence service, right? These are different components of the government that not a lot of people understand. I do. And so who is executing those executive orders on a daily basis? Who's going out and checking randomly, showing up to Benny Johnson's studio and going, okay, Benny, are you using this particular thing with the FCC? Who knows? I want people to understand. I want to put it in the perspective of your audience, because somebody's got to check.
So your contention here, and I'm sorry, but I just have to ask a follow-up on this, because it's wild that you're saying that Tulsi Gabbard may have been given incorrect information in order to create some sort of frictions there. We've obviously seen this with Signalgate, where there's still no proper explanation as to why one of the most anti-Trump visceral reporters was added to a classified chain.
I'm sorry, Benny. It happened to me. It happened to me when I was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. My testimony, okay, this happened to me, but I had 5 years of combat experience, right? I'd been fighting these bastards for a long time, and I had been studying them like I've been studying the Chinese for 40 years. My testimony, my written testimony came back, and the White House had changed it. They wanted me to say a certain narrative that Obama was talking about at that time. And that was the reason why under the Obama regime, I'll call it a regime, under the Obama regime, I was let go, because I was not going to follow the narrative. And I didn't, in very public testimony, where all the others, a very famous picture of Clapper, Comey, Brennan, right, myself, and we were asked the question about Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And because remember, Obama said Al-Qaeda's on the run, bin Laden's dead, right? So that was the narrative that they wanted. I didn't follow that narrative because it wasn't the truth. It wasn't the truth. And so, but I knew, because I had at that point in time, I had about 30 plus years of experience in the intel community, and I knew how intelligence can be weaponized and politicized. I knew it. That's just not my thing. I came off the battlefields where, if you weaponize or politicize intelligence, people are going to die. And so that's what our intel community became, particularly under Jim Clapper. Jim Clapper is one of the worst bureaucrats. Jim Clapper was a bureaucrat in the intel community for, I think, 55 years.
So
right?
they tried to manipulate your testimony.
Yeah. So that's why I say with Tulsi, I'm not surprised that Tulsi was given, because Tulsi's just in the job. It's like, what are you going to expect her to do? Go and study? I mean, maybe she challenged, but she's like listening to people who are the experts, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is a very unenviable position to be in. President Trump, the hand of God on him, clearly, because I don't know any other man who could withstand the amount of pressure that he is under right now, and doing it very coolly and very calmly and threading this needle. Again, you have real problems no matter what choice he makes. I mean, there are going to be major results that could be good and bad, and it's a tough position to be in, especially with a bunch of rats around you and a bunch of people leaking or trying to manipulate your administration. Just really quickly here, just very quickly in the end, because J.D. Vance is somebody who is advising the president, is in his ear and is in these meetings. Seems to be a very steady hand. Would you advise the president? What would you advise the president right now, given the circumstance with Iran? Would you advise him to strike Iran right now?
No, I wouldn't. I would wait to. The one thing that I know about warfare is that I can tell that the Israelis are on a very methodical and determined campaign, military campaign, with a series of objectives, a series of phases, and they're likely into their, well into their second phase of this operation, of this campaign, from a military campaigning perspective. So I would not. I would, it's kind of like, in warfare, Benny, the best plan has the most options right up to the last possible minute. So the president has to have all the options available. And if he decides to use them, he needs to know, when I make that decision, how long is that going to take to implement? When I make that decision, how long is that going to take? So he's got to have the timing and the sequencing and all these kinds of things in mind, and people around him. So I don't think right now is the time. I don't think right now is the time. I do, as I look at what the Israelis are doing, because Israel doesn't want army divisions and boots on the ground. You know, what we all want. I want the Iranian people to rise up. And guess what? For those, because they'll listen to this, Benny. The Iranian people know that 50 years of existence under a dictatorship. The other aspect of what Trump's got to think about, and this is where J.D. Vance comes in very handily, it's to continue to pull on the president to make sure that he doesn't lose focus of why he was elected president of the United States. Back to something that you said, a while back there about where there's a nuclear weapon right here in this country right now, right? I mean, and there is. So I think that those steady hands around him, and I would say that Trump's probably one of the most steady because of the kinds of things that he's done. There are times when I felt like, God, I wish Trump would just, do this right now, something that he could have done inside the country, right? And that has to do with accountability, but another day. Because right now, the steadiness that he requires are those options that I just, we've talked about, and he needs to know the timing and the sequencing. So right now, I would say hold. I would say, no, just hold on that option. Let's see how the Israeli campaign continues to unfold, and let's see what the world is going to do, because NATO is going to try to pull Trump into the war in Ukraine, and what are we going to have? I mean, that's nuts. That's nuts. So that's nuts up there what we're doing, and over $500 billion we spent. The Chinese, with what the Israelis are doing, remember how much oil the Chinese pull through the Straits of Hormuz. And I said it this morning. That's a very devastating thing, as well as the tariffs. So there's some boxing going on here. If you think about a boxer who's in one stance and then changes the stance, right? Trump is able to be that adaptive in his ability because, frankly, the United States of America still has, and that's what I want. That's kind of how I want Trump to think. But I do want Trump to come out to the American people and tell us with some great clarity where parts of his head are, where America needs to be thinking. What are the objectives that he is still seeking, given the mandate that he was given by the American people? You got to keep the troops informed, Benny.
Yeah. Well, we would love that. We had there was some fake news the other night about President Trump making an address to the nation. We were locked and ready at the studio just in case that happened. We feel like that's probably going to be something that occurs and that happens. And I also hope that the president has the Ayatollah welcome to the White House. I really do. Like, I sincerely look forward to that meeting. I can't wait for that. It'll make Zelensky and the South African president meeting look like child's play. Like, could you imagine, like, turn the lights down? I want to show the Ayatollah something. You don't know the cards. You don't know the cards.
You know what? Trump crossed that blue. Trump crossed that blue line in South and North Korea too.
That's right. Hell yeah, man. That's my favorite Trump moment. He'll never be able to, no matter what, as president, my favorite Trump moment obviously is fight, but my favorite Trump moment as president is him walking into North Korea. That's the strongest thing any president's ever done in my lifetime. Period. Yep. That's exactly right. Oh, I love it. I can't wait for the Ayatollah meeting in the Oval Office. That'll be amazing. Thank you, General. God bless, obviously, whatever work you're doing there in Washington, D.C. If you're right there in the heart of the city, we have a feeling you're cooking with something. So we look forward to seeing what you have to do. Here's the General's book, by the way. Here's the Amazon link. It's called Pardon of Innocence. He spoke about it earlier in the show. If you want to go pick it up, here it is right there on Amazon. And here's the General on X. Got 2 million Americans follow him. Obviously, you should be one of them. Fight with the people who are fighting for us. And nobody fights harder than General Flynn. Godspeed, sir.
All right, Benny. God bless. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're ready to have more red light on your face from after those scorching hot takes from General Flynn, I didn't really know how to do a segue here, but we're just going to give it a shot. I put red light on my face every single night through my bond charge mask. My bond charge red light mask, it's kind of like a sauna, right? And you get this, we're robbed because we live inside of these little boxes. Like I live inside of a windowless box. A lot of people work inside of these windowless boxes. We are starved of sunlight, particularly red light. That's so good for you, and it's so good for your health. A lot of blue light, but too much blue light and too high of quantities, which is all electronic light, is toxic for you. It's not good. Ladies and gentlemen, that red light is absolutely healing. It's been great for me. It's been great for my my energy. It's good for wrinkles and blemishes, but also it's just kind of great to make you feel like nice and like locked in. You feel energized afterwards. It's kind of like a sauna, right? Some of the countries that live the very longest on Earth are sauna countries, countries where sauna is part of the lifestyle. I don't have room for a sauna, nor do I have the wealth to put in my own private sauna in my little house. It's like, no, that's not possible for me. But you do have the ability to use the red light blanket and face mask, ladies and gentlemen. Bond charge is what I use. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It's sleek, it's lightweight, and it's available for you now at 15% off with the code Benny. BONCHARGE.com/Benny. Bondcharge.com/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny to save 15%. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to President Trump talking about the possibility of an Ayatollah meeting at the White House. I want it. I need this. Like, I'm sorry, guys. The most entertaining outcome is obviously going to be the most likely. That's Elon's razor. Iran proposed White House meeting. Okay, says Donald Trump. Let's go. Here's President Trump saying, why not? Why not do it? Why not do a White House meeting? Like Donald Trump is a great peacemaker. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means here as Christians. Here's President Trump saying, let's do it.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet. And they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
It is a shame, but ladies and gentlemen, I think we're here, right? Aren't you? Isn't this the art of the deal? Donald Trump, like just cracking jokes yesterday. Light as air. I don't know how he does it, other than the absolute providence, other than like a heavenly providence. I don't know how he does it. I just don't know. How do you handle How do you handle these kind of pressures? Think about like how many calls President Trump is getting like every second of the day from every world leader. It's like half the world wants him to bomb Iran. The other half wants him to stay out of it. So many consequences to every single decision that he makes. Every move that he makes has the potential to crash the market, skyrocket, has the potential to cost people a lot of lives, civilians or Iranian leadership or whatever, right? People in Israel, like, got nothing against Israel. I got nothing against Iran. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want innocent civilians to die. I don't want this. And, I think that's like very New Testament of me, right? Like Christ says, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Probably the most justifiable violence in the history of the world is Peter pulling his sword out to defend the Son of God, Christ. And Christ says, put your sword away. Don't do it. No violence. Blessed are the peacemakers. So we want that. We want that like as a, as something that's like profoundly central. And that's not just the one verse. There's hundreds of verses about being a peacemaker and seeking peace. And that's the side of the angels. Everyone in a war tries to convince you that they're on the side of the angels. It doesn't matter which party. It doesn't matter North Korea, whatever. The most evil dictators and regimes will try and convince you that they're on the side of the angels. The truth is that war is often fought by two demons. And so we just don't want it. We don't want it. What we'd rather have is stuff like this. Man, this is amazing. A USAID gave known con man $800 million contract to do Kamala's work on root causes of migration. This is a wild story here. According to the DOJ, USAID official and 3 corporate executives pled guilty to decades-long bribery scheme involving $550 million in contracts. Two companies admit criminal liability for bribery scheme and securities fraud. President Joe Biden's USAID awarded $800 million in contracts to businesses, nearly $1 billion in contracts operating out of a Virginia home, even after it formally ruled that the key manager lacked honesty and integrity, a reference to the fact that, according to May 12 guilty plea, he had USAID contracts through bribery for a decade. This is why they had to shut it down. This is why you have to shut USAID down. This is wild. Now, there's a consequence. There's a reaction here that you're going to love. Get a load of this. The same time that Donald Trump, and this is the kind of work that I want Trump to be doing, okay? Again, the nuclear bomb is already here. Yes, there's a nuclear bomb. Yes, it's made by our enemies. Yes, it's being deployed against Americans. I believe it. It's true. But before, Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham go get their special socks, okay, let me explain what I mean by that. This bomb that has been deployed against us is the terrorist element that is baked into the bones of the 20 million criminal aliens that are here illegally residing among us, that are here to do illegal acts, that are potential terrorist sleeper cells. We know as a matter of fact, they are already here. That bomb is already created, and it's ready to explode. We've already seen the devastation in places like Los Angeles, where foreign mercenary armies are marching the streets, burning, killing, and attacking our military. That's an invasion. That is more prescient than Iran, okay? And I'm not making the argument that Iran needs a nuclear weapon. Of course not. There is no argument to be made there. I don't like it. I don't want it. And I got plenty of GWAT friends, Global War on Terror, friends who fought in those battles, who came back who never came back, who came back with horrifically maimed, mainly because of Iran. Okay, so I'm not saying that they're the good guys. I'm not saying that their leadership is good. But I am saying that fundamentally, it's not our problem. I'm saying fundamentally, there is a bigger problem, perhaps. Not perhaps. There is a bigger problem here in our country that we need to focus on. And that is far more prescient than that. All right? So why don't we solve that first? It's a great scripture about taking care of the log in your own eye before you look at the speck in your neighbor's eye, right? And this is a massive problem in our own eye. So let's take care of these things here. Another bomb that exists in our country, another nuclear bomb that exists in our country, is this type of fraud, graft, and corruption inside of our federal government. The stories like that of billions of dollars being squandered, misused, misspent, and given to our enemies. So President Trump took direct action against that, along with Elon Musk. Godspeed. Thank God they shut that down. They shut down USAID. Well, that's the action. Let's go ahead and look at the reaction. New York Times. The DNC is in chaos and it is in total desperation for cash. Look at that. Would you look at that? Oh, would you look at that? There's the meme. Would you look at that? Can you grab me that meme, Jerry? Jerry, can you just look at it? Jerry, Jerry, take this screenshot and add the would you look at that meme to it, please, for the show, for the chat, shall we? Okay. Just months after his tenure of new party leader, Ken Martin, Democrat National Committee's financial situation has grown so bleak, top officials have discussed whether they might need to borrow money this year to keep paying the bills. Fundraising from major donors, some of whom Mr. Martin has still not spoken with, has slowed sharply at the same time as he has expanded the party's financial commitments to every single state, and even to far-flung territories like Guam. Fellow Democrats are grumbling that Mr. Martin is the head of the DNC, who quietly accepted a raise after taking the post, has been badly distracted by internal battles. And so far, they say, he has been unable to help unite the party against Republicans who control the federal government. A protracted and public fight with David Hogg, the 25-year-old activist turned DNC vice chair, has blindsided the party officials, and the plan to challenge incumbent Democrats made things worse. The clash included the leak of embarrassing audio of Mr. Martin questioning his own role and ended in Mr. Hogg's unceremonious exit last month. That was soon followed by news that the country's most influential labor leaders, who represent a combined 2.3 million workers, were also leaving the DNC. Both questioned the party's direction under Mr. Martin. Oh boy. Ruth Gifford, who served as the finance chairman for Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign and maintains relationships with top donors, suggested that Democrats were being sent the wrong messaging at a time when they were desperately looking for fight and leadership. This is wild. So they defund USAID. They destroy USAID and all of the fraud. And then the DNC is broke a month later. What have we been talking about on this program? We have said that USAID is simply a slush fund for Democrats. Here's how it works, and we just showed you. Okay, so we would use a number like this, but let's round the numbers up. Okay, so we just have a story that we just talked about with $1 billion in fraud from USAID. $1 billion in fraud. These shady figures that exist right inside the Beltway, right there in Virginia and Maryland. Okay, right outside of DC. We've often on this program used the example that USAID gives a contract for $1 billion. We've said this before a million times, but now we have the actual literal proof. Can you pop the article up? USAID gives these shady ass criminals $1 billion. What happens to it? We often use the example, building schools in Africa. Okay, it's the exact same thing. Work on root causes of migration, right? Here's $1 billion to work on root causes of migration. It's an esoteric and totally existential problem that, of course, you'll never be able to solve. USAID plows that money into the hands of shady activists who do what with it? They spend it. How do they spend it? Well, they could directly just take the money out of a bank account and put it in a duffel bag and hand it to a member of Congress. That's the way it used to be done. But now it's most likely done by paying themselves salaries of like $50, $100 million a year, paying themselves these kind of salaries that like NFL quarterbacks who win the Super Bowl don't get. They take those salaries, they take that money, and then once they've paid the taxes on it, it's in their bank account. They plow it into the coffers of the DNC. They plow it into the coffers of Act Blue. Act Blue then has a system in order to plunk through illegal donation mechanisms, through small donations that nobody knows, with no security verifications, they're able to plunk that into the accounts of all these Democrats running for Congress. That's the system. That's the machine. Bing, 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 bing. Bing, bang, bing, bing, boom. That's how it works. Now, when you cut those contracts, and you hopefully put these people in jail, when you eliminate those contracts, would you look at this? The DNC has no money. The biggest challenge facing Mr. Martin, back to the New York Times article, is financial. Six people, this is according to the New York Times. 6 people briefed on the party's fundraising, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the finances, frankly, said big donors, who are essential for the party's fundraising. Isn't that amazing? Oh, I thought this was the party of the people. We don't like big donors. We don't like billionaires. Big donors, who are essential to the party's fundraising, have been very slow to give to the party this year, as Mr. Martin solicits his contributions. His commitment to the state parties, which amount to $1 million in monthly spending, has further strained the finances. Senior DNC officials have discussed the possibility of borrowing money in the coming months in order to keep the operations fully funded. Isn't that amazing? The people that got us $37 trillion in debt now needing to borrow money just to keep the DNC alive. According to 2 people with direct knowledge. Mr. Martin acknowledged those talks. That's certainly not our plan right now, he says, tapping a line of credit. I don't know if we'll have to at this point. He noted the grassroots fundraising had remained strong. The party said small donations in the first 3 months were the most under the new chairman. Still, the party's total cash reserves shrank by $4 million in January. According to the most recent federal records, Republican National Committee's coffers swelled to roughly $30 million. New report due this week. The party, out of power, often falls behind with the one holding the White House. Still, the current financial gap is large, $18 million on hand for the DNC entering May, compared to $64 million for the RNC. Goodness gracious, so it's over double. It's nearly triple. Hefty chunks still sit in accounts that cannot be used for operational costs. In the first 4 months of the year, the only 3 people that gave $100,000 or more to the DNC, according to the Federal Election Commission's reports, the party said that it received 3 more 6-figure donations in May from individuals. Goodness gracious. You know why this is happening? You know why this is happening? Holy smokes. It's happening because they know that they'll be investigated. Like if you give these obscene amounts to the DNC now, there's a Justice Department that has the potential for looking back to like, how much money were you paid by USAID? Exactly, in salary. How much money did you get from federal contracts? Even as the party faces a financial crunch, the DNC increased Mr. Martin's salary this year. Federal records show his annual salary is now $350,000, up from $300,000. So he gave himself a raise. Isn't that just classic? Isn't that just like absolute classic champagne socialism for you? So he's giving himself a raise. His party is broke. They're having to borrow money, and he's patting himself on the back and giving himself a raise. Amazing. Yeah, that's right. That's what Klein says. Please, the compensation committee. He's the head of the compensation committee. You know, so he voted for his own compensation increase. Isn't that perfect? Members of Congress straight up voting to give themselves a raise. Do you think Congress has done a great job? Congress has I think ass cancer has a higher approval rating than Congress right now. It's a little crude, but it's true. There are more people that like colon cancer than Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, exciting times. Times that are certainly interesting. And we're very excited to see the corrupt fall. And we really do hope that James Comey gets put in shackles for what he's done. We're really sickened by these attempts on President Trump's life. And we don't need a fifth column inside of our federal government, right? The point is that there's enough battles to already be fought here. We're worried about it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're covering it. There's one other very, very interesting, actually two other very interesting stories of note. They are breaking, and it's something that we've covered here, and I want to get to them. Ladies and gentlemen, first, when there is breaking news, ensure that you are using Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is the cell phone company that we use. They're the only Christian conservative wireless provider in the nation. They keep us locked and loaded when we're on the road. We'll be releasing major documentaries and fun stuff that we've been shooting throughout the country. We're working on these projects right now. These things take weeks to edit, but we're cooking. We're the only people that are attempting in our own way to influence culture with the style of storytelling. And so we appreciate your patience and we appreciate your support. Patriot Mobile, when we are out and gathering this kind of information, this kind of style, Patriot Mobile keeps us locked in, man. We're able to go live, we're able to record, we're able to report, and we love our service. They're available on all three major networks. They're just great people. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT to get a free month of service with promo code Benny. Make the switch, defend freedom with every single call or text that you make. patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT. All right, just quickly here, two very fascinating stories to me. I don't really understand what the hell's going on here. I told you that something very dark was happening in Minneapolis. And it is. This is a wild story. So there was a horrific killing that happened in Minneapolis where a man named Vance Boliter, who has this deeply shady background, and I can't make any sense of it at all. Vance Boliter, here's what we know about him. He was appointed by Governor Tim Walz to a prestigious board. His wife worked for Governor Tim Walz. Vance Boliter worked at a 7-Eleven as a manager, and then somehow graduated to being in charge of a security firm and running a nonprofit to relocate Africans to Minneapolis. All of these things, not MAGA, okay? None of this stuff MAGA. But then more importantly, he also violent, committing political violence. That's also not MAGA. The through line of the entire show today, that's not MAGA. We don't do that kind of stuff. We don't do that here, right? Not us. Anyway, so they're trying to paint this guy as MAGA. He's not, clearly. But more importantly, he's been caught. Okay, good. I look forward to more information here. We found out something horrifying from a police report just 2 days ago, that when Vance Boliter, with his creepy-ass mask on, and please give me that photo of him with the mask on, Vance Boliter with his creepy-ass mask on, wearing his fake police gear, was outside of the house of elected Democrat named Melissa Hortman. She was the Speaker of the House. She's very powerful. He was outside of her house. The cops caught him looking just like this, first off, you're impersonating a police officer. You're stalking. There's so many crimes. But then he opens fire on the cops. The cops shoot back. And then the cops, like, he enters the home, commits the murders, and the cops were outside, which is insane. I don't know. I just like, maybe I just don't understand these things. I'm not a cop. But like, I assume that you would like want to chase after him, like prevent him from doing something bad, capture him, because he ended up getting away. They sent a hail of bullets into the house, but like he ends up getting away. So they, like he's gone. Anyway, that house is a horrible murder scene now. It's terrible. We disavow it. It's awful. All of this is just strange. It's just strange. It's evil. It's dark. It's strange. We don't understand it. We really don't understand the motivation. The guy has 5 kids and wife. Why the hell would he do this? He's got that creepy ass MK Ultra look in his eyes. Looks like they sent special forces after him, right? Doesn't it look like federal special forces? We were just with special forces. It looks exactly like them. Anyway, what's the point? He had this No Kings flyers in the back of his car. This is a far left-wing protest. None of this guy's life, nothing in this guy's life point to he's a Trump supporter or he's MAGA. But that's what they're calling him in the media with zero evidence. Zero evidence. In fact, the No Kings protest, which allegedly he's a part of, I mean, that's what the evidence shows us, has a target on Trump's head. Like they put a target on Trump's head. Okay, that's my spiel. What happened yesterday? The murder scene, okay, with this house, this representative was broken into by some type of mysterious agent. Someone got into the house, even though the house is all boarded up. It's obviously, a crime scene. Well, that's crazy. What happened next? Well, the person just cased the place. Whatever mysterious agent or criminal, crook, whatever dark individual got into the home didn't take the TV or the jewelry. You'd assume, okay, let's say it's a Minneapolis youth, all right, who was breaking in here. You'd assume that they would like grab the TV. They'd grab the jewelry. Maybe they'd grab some, like, I don't know, some of the stuff that you take, criminal element, you just take some of the valuables, right? Get it out of the house. You just take it and sell it on the street, get a couple bucks. Nothing was taken. Isn't that odd? So a criminal breaks in the dark of night, middle of the night, pries those boards off the house, and then gets into the home. So they pry the police boards off. So they're very motivated to get it. I mean, super motivated to get in. They're actually more motivated than a normal criminal would be, right? Because a normal criminal would just like find when you're not home and just get into your house. It's the Midwest. People don't even lock their doors. You know what I mean? Did you grow up in the Midwest? Like there are a lot of places in this country where you don't even lock your doors. I never even saw a house key at my house, right? Where I was growing up in Iowa. There was no such thing as a house key. Okay? So it don't make no sense to me. Because if you're just like a petty criminal and you're looking to like grab some stuff, well, you don't go to like an active crime scene. There's going to be cops around. The doors are all boarded up. It's like a lot harder to get into the house. And here's what's so strange about it. The criminal didn't take anything, according to the cops. Just broke in for the fun of breaking in. Just to walk around. What the hell is that about? No. Why would any criminal, like in their right mind, like put themselves in that situation? Get picked up by the cops. You know there's going to be a bunch of cops there. That criminal was doing something. Someone was there to do something very strange. Someone was there to meddle, to get rid of evidence, to plant evidence. I don't know. But it doesn't make any sense to me. And since we've covered this, it's worth pointing this out. Again, if we've covered this and many people in the audience, you're one of them, say something's wrong. Something's happening. Horror in the heartland, something very dark is happening in Minnesota right now. We don't know what to make of it. I wish that I had all the answers for you. But I'm telling you that this doesn't make any sense. That someone would break in and not take anything to probably the most famous active murder scene in the country right now. Doesn't make any sense. Here's something that does make a lot of sense. Why haven't they released the footage of the Carmelo Anthony murder in Florida? Well. This also came out yesterday, and I just wanted to cover it. There is video footage of the murder of Austin Metcalf young student who was killed by Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony got into an altercation with this student, stabbed him in the heart, and killed him. Why hasn't the video been released? It's very strange. The video hasn't been released because it destroys Carmelo Anthony's case. Let me explain. Carmelo Anthony's entire case is predicated upon self-defense. So in the video, you would have to show that your life was being threatened. There are states like in Florida, you can defend yourself with deadly force if you believe that your life is being threatened. Now you're going to have to prove that out. You're going to have to explain to a jury why, your life was being threatened. Someone was hitting me with a baseball bat. It's a famous case, George Zimmerman, this famous case here in Florida, Trayvon Martin. And he was able to get off because he could prove that his head was being slammed into the concrete. That Trayvon Martin was taking his skull and slamming it into the concrete. Well, you're trying to kill someone when you're doing that, okay? No matter what you think of that case, that's what's happening. And so the jury said, all right, well, you can use force. He's trying to kill you. You can protect yourself. You're allowed to defend yourself. Killer Carmelo Anthony is going to have to prove that something like that was happening to him. That his life was so in jeopardy that someone was slamming his skull into the concrete, right? You're not allowed to stab someone if they insult you. That's not how it works in this country. If somebody comes up and starts talking to you, you don't have a right to kill them, to take their life. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, doesn't matter what background you come from, doesn't matter what protected class you're in. There is literally no justification for that. You don't want to live in a society like that. That's called a zero trust society. That's the third world. That's a lawless society. According to this video that a reporter watched, so the video is finally being shown. It should be released to the public. It's going to be played at the trial. And we now know, because of this report in the Daily Mail, what's actually happening. So this report in the Daily Mail explains that the reporter went and saw the video, and they saw, you could see the tent that Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf were in, and you see absolutely no scuffle. There's no sign of distress. There's no sign of a physical altercation until Austin Metcalf gets stabbed and killed. So what does this belie? That much like hood rat or rat culture, murder is justifiable if you insult someone. What this is what all of the available evidence points to is that Austin Metcalf said, "Get the hell out of our tent. This is in your school's tent. Leave." That's what firsthand reports say. That's what the police report says. That's what the witnesses say. And so Killer Carmelo Anthony didn't like that, saw it as disrespect. And that's a death penalty. That's a death warrant, right? It's not the way this country is supposed to be. It's not the way you can't have a functional society. Carmelo Anthony will have his case destroyed when this video gets played at the trial. He will not face the death penalty. I think that's unfortunate because he needs to face the strictest possible punishment that is allowed in the state of Texas. Excuse me. That would be capital punishment with the death penalty in Texas. However, because he was 17 when he committed this murder, and because it's his first criminal act, right? There is a Supreme Court case that says he's not allowed to face the death penalty because he was technically underage when this happened. He's 18 now. He's going to be tried as an adult in Texas. He's going to be tried with capital murder charges in Texas, which is the highest form of murder charge. He could face the next 50 to 60 years in prison, meaning he'd get out in his late 70s. And that's when he's just available for parole, right? So it's like it's technically a life sentence, effectively, he could serve. But that's what he's facing right now. And it all hinges on whether they can present the argument that his life was at risk. But according to the reporters, this is the first time I've heard a reporter write out like what they saw in the video. There was absolutely no sign that there was any physical aggression at all. Carmelo Anthony just felt disrespected. and then decided to take the deadly tactical knife that he brought to a track meet, because it's totally normal, right? That's what the honor students do. What the best students do is they bring very sharp, very deadly knives, tactical knives, to track meets, and then they commit murder, and then they flee the scene, which is what Carmelo Anthony did. He ran away. Then he admitted to the cops that he did it, and it's all on camera. This should be an open and shut case. I think that it's going to trial actually soon. It's Texas, so I think they're going to move very quickly here. This is going to be some type of we'll make sure the trial's next year. I think it's happening in next month. I'm almost certain. Can you fact check me on that? I think that the trial is happening next month. So the charges have been brought, and we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. But those are two very big cases that, again, we hope for outcomes here that make sense in Minnesota and in Texas. What outcome will make sense? Well, Minnesota, I don't know what the hell is going on. Why would this guy do this? I don't know. Did this guy do this? Was it even him committing the murders? I don't know. It's very strange. And then in the case of Texas, do we know a trial date here? I'm not seeing one. Guys, nothing? No? Producers? Come on, producers. Come on. We got to be faster than that. All right. Court will set a trial date? They haven't set a trial date yet? I was almost sure that it was next month. All right, fine. I thought we read that. All right. Anyway, okay, there is no trial date set. Shame. Shame on me. All right. Well, then unfortunately, maybe this will carry out a little longer than I'd hoped. I'd like for a speedy trial here. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, those are the two major national news stories that I wanted to get updates on. For more breaking news updates, please subscribe to our podcast. Here is the QR code for you to do that right now. We will be there for you with breaking news. The RSS feed is a great way to make sure that you can listen when you're in the gym or at the grocery store or doing chores or whatever. My wife constantly has her earpods on and listening to podcasts. She is totally and completely obsessed with Tucker right now. She's howling at me this morning about Tucker's interview with Ted Cruz. We have so much to talk about that. Maybe we'll spend the day tomorrow talking about that. But please, ladies and gentlemen, help us be strong on this RSS feed by locking in and subscribing to our podcast. Matthew 26:5 is our verse of the day. But Jesus said to him, "Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword." That's exactly right. The New Testament is a new covenant with our people, with the Christian people, Christians. We are ordered by our Lord and Savior to find peace, to live by peace, and live peaceably when we can. It doesn't mean let people walk all over us. It means we find peace. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Christ is constantly talking about peace, and constantly talking about seeking peace, saying, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And again, if there was ever justifiable violence in human history, it was this. When a mob sent by the high priests were there to murder and crucify the most innocent man who ever lived in the history of the world, God's Son, Jesus Christ. That's the most justifiable violence ever, is Peter whipping out the sword and cutting the guy's ears off. And even then, Christ says, "Put your sword away." Okay? We should live by that. We should remember that, because we are under a new covenant as Christians, right? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a press conference for Carolyn Leavitt that'll happen in about an hour. We'll see. But I think we're going to carry that live. So expect us to be live in just a little bit. Till then, it's your boy Benny, and we're on the road to victory. And we'll win, ladies and gentlemen. That is guaranteed. Remember, in the end, we win. See ya.
Here comes the story of the hurricane. The man the authorities came to blame for something that he never done. Put him in a prison cell, but one time he could have been the champion of the world.
Show where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong.
battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.